Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the In the 11 podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Griffiths, and this is the show where you bring on those from the world of football to show you what it takes to be in the 11 at the highest possible level. This week's guest is Victor Davis, stepping into the 11, the Ohio native who left the United States at a young age to go and pursue the dream of playing professional soccer. And the way in which he went about it was going to England to play for Richmond International Academic and Soccer Academy. So from the age of 17, 18 is placed in an environment where he's playing against English academies and really high quality talent. And for the past few years, then used that university experience to find an opportunity in Finland and has played there in the past seasons. Home now, and as we'll talk about the kind of struggles that go into being a lower level professional in a country like Finland or some of these smaller European countries where you might not have the support or resources that you need for all those things that a big club might be able to take care of, i.e., your visa process, your accommodation, all those types of things. It may mean that you're driving to the embassy a couple hours on your own to go and figure out how you're going to be able to stay in the country and not get deported. So it's definitely a great conversation. It's a episode that I think those of you who want to play at the professional level should really listen to if you're going to be kind of building your career from the start up. And yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing it with you guys. Before I go, please, as I said, we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And we hit a little bit of a lull. We had a big push, and now we're kind of at a bit of a standstill right now. Do me a favor, please, if you're watching right now, hit that subscribe button on YouTube as it helps massively for the channel to grow. I'd greatly appreciate it. Without further ado, here's myself, Victor. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stepping into the 11 now is Victor Davis. Looking forward to diving into his story, and also very much appreciative, as he just mentioned, a fan of the show as well. Has listened to some episodes prior to this, so that's definitely special for me to hear as well. Being home now, I know we're recording this while you're back home in Ohio. Is it weird, kind of the past, what is it, maybe 6 or so years, like you've been kind of overseas and living all over abroad? Is it weird at all being back home for this extended period of time?
A bit. I mean, I always kind of thought like that year between like spring 2020 and summer 2021 were, I guess, in a way, good practice. When
Yeah.
that was like when I finished up like living in England, and that was before then I started like my first like season in Finland. So I guess like I've been here for a little bit, but it's definitely weird thinking like there's no sort of big transatlantic trip coming up anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That first, so I know you started your career by kind of going over to England, right? But can you walk to me or talk to me a little bit about just growing up and playing the game? Like, from the outside looking in, it seems like you were a player who knew very early on that you wanted to, try something new, right? Go for a new adventure. Maybe it was playing professionally, but definitely just experience something new.
I always kind of thought like so I what was it? I grew up in Athens, Ohio, pretty much like 20 years of my life here, 18 I guess or whatever. And it was never really like a big soccer area, something like that. And I
Mm,
always kind of thought like, oh, I'm one of the better ones, one of the better players. And I tend to like, for the club stuff, I always thought I was like one of the better ones too. And I kind of always had in my head, it was like, I don't know how, like sort of what form, but I wanted to like try and play professional soccer. And you don't really have an idea what that kind of entails. You're kind of, I don't know, maybe when you're like a little kid, you're thinking like Bayern Munich as a scout at your club game or something.
yeah.
But there was always just something like that. And then what was it? Honestly, I during my like probably like my youth, like my middle school, high school years, I thought the best way was through like collegiate soccer, like NCAA. But I really had a lot of trouble. Maybe it was a bit more like applying myself, or just sort of generally unlucky. I never really found like a great fit for like when to play for college soccer.
Okay.
And I remember thinking like oh gosh, it was like probably like winter of my winter, like going into the Christmas of my senior year. I'm at the Disney like soccer showcase. And like there's an advertisement for like the school I'm going to, Richmond International Academic Soccer Academy in England, popped up like on Captain U, and I decided to like just go to what was it, the like open trial there, and I really like the premise of it pretty much, where it was this whole thing of training year round,
Mm.
or learn football in England and everything, get that knowledge and stuff, and then spent 4 years there, but I guess you really like had this idea like I wanted to play pro, but I didn't really know the best way. And I thought generally like if I could somehow just get over to Europe in a sense, maybe I can figure something out. I always kind of knew that like having because I'm only American, like no sort of like special visa or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
you have to be pretty knowledgeable of like what countries can let you play there and everything.
Yep.
Because stuff like England's generally out of the question. But it was like I remember kind of thinking in high school, I was like, oh, Finland can kind of let you play there. Like, I'd love the opportunity to just go play there. I remember like telling people like high school, like, oh, like I want to play in Finland. Like, hopefully, stay there for a little bit.
That's cool that you had that foresight, in terms of at such a young age going over and getting into Europe. Like that's kind of the way, as I was looking at your sort of story, that's kind of the way that I saw it, in the sense of putting yourself in that environment as early as possible, right? And like you mentioned there, England is a really tough place to play for foreigners, just because of, and again, this is probably something that maybe you even learned later on down the road as well. It's definitely something that I learned later on down the road, that it's so hard for foreigners to go and play there because of the specific visa laws and things like that. It's pretty much out of the question for a foreigner to just go in and play. But just putting yourself in that environment and putting yourself around, you're a stone's throw away from all these different European countries, like, was such a huge advantage to you from such a young age. Was there any like kind of apprehension or nerves about leaving home for something like that, when you did, or was it just excitement?
There was a bit of nerves at the time. I was kind of used to joke that I was like I would go to these soccer camps like the state over, and I'd have a little trouble sleeping. I was like, oh, I kind of miss like my cat or whatever, like
Yeah.
the house. But I generally think like you do a situation like this, you do kind of like sink or swim. But most do swim and everything. Like you get used to it, you make a home out of it, and I don't regret ever like doing that whatsoever. I think it was a great like 4 years of my life, and I'm so glad I got to experience like that culture and just everything like football related.
Yeah. So what was that experience like? For obviously you were able to, which I think is another unique thing about this, right? Is that you were still able to study as well. Like, so you were kind of able to have the university experience, but also play, at a really high level and stuff like that. Like, how do you look back at those 4 years from the football side, but just also personally?
Football side first, I think it was profoundly eye opening. Where as a young, like an American doing the club soccer system, I just nothing can. I maybe it'll like inferiority here, but like nothing can compete with that academy system. Like these kids, they live and breathe it in a
Mm,
sense, and it's really tough to try and catch up with that like much later on when you're like 18 to 20. So some of my experiences like playing these academy teams, like playing like the Burnley, Sheffield Wednesday, Middlesbrough academies, and I had like a year or two on them, but they were still just some of the best players I ever played against, and it really
wow.
is like there's just such a big world to like just football and everything, and you gotta I guess like really just put the time in, because they're but maybe to put the time in, but also it's just like it's a great way to kind of realize there's still so much more to learn, and that's kind of like the fun part and the beauty in it.
Yeah.
So it was good. Like I was able to just broaden my horizons to kind of realize like, hey, you know what? There's more to than just there's so much more than just U.S. Soccer and everything. And I'm really grateful for the kind of knowledge and like experience I've got like from that.
Yeah.
Um, Culture wise too, I feel like England was like a great kind of starting point to get into playing abroad for Europe, because the culture is so similar. I mean, it's still English is the primary language and everything, and maybe some differences, but it's definitely like a gateway into like living into Europe. There's like still somewhat similar culture to the U.S., and I
Yeah.
feel like it kind of prepared me like much later on, like living in Finland.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. And I have to imagine too, it was maybe a bit easier, like going into, um, an environment where all of these kind of people that you were with had pretty similar goals and aspirations to what you were trying to do, right? A lot of players are kind of in the similar mindset to you, and I imagine too there might be a number of other foreign players that came and were in a similar situation to you, because I know it's like an international kind of academy. That's the way that they kind of, I guess, market that, so to speak. So did that also make it the transition a little bit easier, kind of having other people to, figure things out in the early part?
Oh, 100%. I kind of joke here, but like some of my like closest friends, I mean, like they're like my brothers, but they're other Americans and people like from other parts of like Europe and like Africa
Mm,
that I made friends with there just because I was around so much. I trained with them, I went to school with them, ate with them, like stayed in the same dorm with them.
yeah.
But it was pretty good. It was definitely like very competitive in a sense, like because you were always kind of around these people, so there was definitely a bit of like like oh who did better in training today and everything like that. But that's kind of like a good thing to have though, because like I feel like some of the best environments like that are where people are kind of pushing each other like that, or they just want to win that like dumb little like soccer tennis thing, or like the 4v4.
Yeah. Yeah, like, is that something that you notice that a lot of pros have? Like, and I know it's definitely something that I think I've noticed of really top level players is they're like so competitive all the time. Like, it almost seems like it never switches off, right? Like they're never in a non-compete kind of mode, and it can be even the smallest things, that are happening in training, but like they want to win every single thing.
Oh no, it's definitely like a mindset like that. I mean, I'm sure you felt this too, but like I've had like I've maybe a little dramatic, but I've had like days of mine ruined just because I felt like it was like, oh man, you know what? I let that guy just like stood me up on the ball. Like what the heck was I thinking, or,
Yeah.
or something like that, And then the beauty of it is like you get to do it every day. It's like constantly like it's the crucible. You're constantly like proving yourself, and I don't know. It's a rivalry too, but definitely friendship as well, where you're helping each other just get better, and I think like that's just like such a positive environment to have that like living in the U.S. During like the COVID time too, just trying to find any way to play. It was just such a rare thing to have, and like anytime I get it now, I just really treasure it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so and you mentioned like some of the really unique opportunities that you had while at that school to also play against some of these big, English academies. What were some of the other opportunities that this school kind of was able to afford you? Like, were there other opportunities to go abroad elsewhere and experience different cultures when it came to football, or play different clubs and kind of get to showcase yourself?
Oh, for sure. We usually had some sort of big trip around the springtime. Like what was it, my freshman year? We actually went to Chemi, the club I ended up playing for my first year. This was back when they were in the Vicus Liga, though, so we played against them and TP47, the club I played with briefly. That was a great experience where I was like 18 at the time and just so nervous. It was like like these are pro footballers in a
Yeah.
way, and we're playing this big bubble dome. Like it's just really like it was really intimidating, but just like such a great experience. Just to see that like life in like the Arctic Circle, but still playing football and everything.
Mm,
Which actually, like, real quick funny story though, that dome ended up having like structural issues and ended up like having to be torn down. And I didn't realize this for about a year, but I was actually training on that same pitch, like in the dome. But I thought like, oh, it's just a crappy pitch, like just off the side of town. But then it finally occurred to me, it's like, holy crap, this is the same place I was at like when I was 19. I'm here, I'm 24. It just never occurred to me.
yeah. Wow, that's crazy. And so I'm curious about that, like that transition, right, from you being in England, and it sounds like you said, you wanted, this was your goal even before you left, right? You wanted this chance to be able to showcase yourself in Europe and then prolong the career, right? So can you walk me through kind of how you go from the English academy to then fast forward and you're playing in Finland?
Um, so the founder of Rice, actually has quite a few connections, like with clubs in Lapland, and so that was always kind of like how they marketed themselves, was like American players could maybe have the opportunity to play in Finland, and everything, and it was kind of funny, like oh, I don't really know how to describe it. Like I thought actually like my senior year, this is like the winter of my senior year in college. I just thought like, oh, Finland's not going to happen. I got to start thinking about like what am I going to do once I graduate, finish my dissertation, like how am I going about like trying to find a club to play with.
Hmm.
And then the owner just kind of approached me and offered like me and some of the other guys like a trial with the Chemi City at the time they were called, because they were hoping to rebuild and stuff because they were currently in the Kokona and they just got promoted. So we did that trial and went decently well, and I was really just hoping to just try and get my foot in the door. So I was offering like, hey, look, even if you're not interested, I'm willing to be like a practice player, like just sort of anything. I just want to like get the experience and start doing it. And the owner put in a good word for me, and they were interested in having me. This was like spring 2020,
Hmm.
where I think you can see where this is going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought like this is the golden ticket. I'm set. I was just like over the moon and everything, so excited. But then COVID happened, and so I tried to stay there like in England for like about an extra 2 weeks, and then it just kind of came to the realization. It was like, oh yeah, this is probably not going to happen anytime soon. So I had to head back home, and then I probably spent like those 2 months just like trying to keep in contact with like the Chemi team. Is like, hey, any chance I can come over? Any chance I can come over? And then I just had to miss the whole season just because like how strict the regulations were. So that was kind of a really rough time and everything, and just it was just trying to keep in shape then until hopefully I could start 2021.
Yeah. That trial when you first go over to Finland for that very first time, um, like how would you put that into words, or how would you describe that? Like that first real, like, this is the opportunity to be a pro, right? Like it's kind of on the table and I can go and take it. It's exciting, but it also definitely it carries a bit of weight to it.
It's a funny story a bit because well, what was it? It was like me and five of the Raisa guys and some sort of English blokes and everything. And the scouts who I found out were the coaches later, like ended up being like kind of friends of mine, like much later. What was it? They didn't really care about positions, so I ended up having to play kind of like left back when I always kind of thought myself as a winger. So that made me like kind of a little nervous at the time. So I think I did like relatively okay.
Hmm.
And we played like probably I think it must have been like a U20 academy team or something. So yeah, we never played together. Most of us had not really played together at all, or not really had a chance. So we just kind of got battered. Just most like it wasn't horrible, just like 2-0 loss or something. But just we just could not attack or just go forward to save our lives.
So
But I think it went okay. And then the funny thing was like the game's finished. It was like, oh, we didn't really see any shots. So do you guys want to take some shots on like your keeper here, a buddy of mine? So we did that for like 15 minutes, and it was like, okay, well, thank you for your time.
So then at the end of it, like you said, I know you said that you wanted to kind of get your foot in the door whatever way possible, right? Like, I'll be a practice player, I'll do what I need to do to just be a part of this environment. Like, what was their feedback for you?
Oh, it's funny. It was just kind of indirect, I guess, because I was talking through the the Ryasa founder Mark Ellis, and he was kind of talking with like the Chemi people were then talking to the Red Strike. So I never really got like proper feedback. I think they kind of thought like, oh, he seemed to do okay, decent, and like it's just another body to like we could always use, because that's always a struggle with oh gosh, I swear it's always a struggle like playing in like Finland, Kokkonen even, because some of these guys like they also do school and everything, and
Yeah.
usually the numbers start dwindling by August and stuff. So you're just happy for any sort of body you can get.
Really?
Yeah, like what was it? As long as you can chew gum and walk too at the same time. But
So what are the, I mean, I guess if you can break down at all, you're probably the expert on this, right? Of kind of the Finnish football league system, right? Like
so,
what's the kind of like tiers, and what, like where are we at? And I guess if we look at the the pyramid, so to speak, in the Kokkonen, or at that time where Chemi City was.
Chemi City was currently in the Kokkonen, which is the third division. Two divisions there are two divisions above it. Above that is the Yakonen, the second division, and then at the top was Vicusliga. They were in the Vicusliga from at the time I remember up until 2019, which then I think was like some financial issues, and at the time and COVID happening just kind of had them like have to like reset everything. They started at the fourth division, got promoted up with help, and then I think at the time too that was actually kind of perfect for me to like just kind of you maybe get a foot in the door where it's like this division they're looking for good players to try and like just either stay in Kokkonen, just do their best sort of thing. And
Yeah, so what's the like I guess what's the kind of contracts that are on offer in that sort of level, or what was your situation? I know that
oh,
you first came like and had to go back home for COVID, and then when you come back, like do they, are you kind of also working your own job? Like are they helping at all kind of put you up in housing or like stuff like that? Like what is that sort of situation?
we were generally like put up in housing. What was it? Like really nice housing actually. Like was Northern Finland in the summer is probably one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. So it was like this just great view of the sea and everything like that. Just kind of like paradise. Free access to the gym there. Give a little shout out, Easy Fit Chemi. So that was great exercise place. Love that. Fantastic owners. And then usually we had some sort of like a free lunch and everything like that. Not really the most paid, to be honest. It was just kind of like tough circumstances, like with everything, like because I had to come in like actually a little bit later in the season just because they finally cleared up like travel requirements enough that I could even fly there and try and stay there.
Yeah. Okay. So then so how long do you actually play with Chemi City, or like what is that time like for you? Is it always with the mindset of I'm just trying to get my foot in the door with this club, or are you already like I know for me, especially in the early stages of my career, it was always very much I would arrive somewhere and then it was kind of like once I got my footing, I felt like all right, how do I level this up, right? Like how do I kind of use this to maybe move up a league, move up a club, move up a contract, that sort of thing. Like was that at all your thought process when you started playing for Chemi?
Oh, 100%. I think as like as an American player, when you're overseas, you always kind of be got because the thing nothing's really permanent like there for the playing opportunities. Like you always gotta be looking for like new, like almost like what you're doing, like looking for new opportunities in a sense. So I was like when I started there, first thing too is I wanted to make an impact, like show like I can be one of the starters, I can be playing the matches and everything. Which luckily I was able to work my way in quickly like the first season, which was great. Um, but definitely like once I kind of got set up, I was definitely like looking for like, okay, what can I do? Is like ideally I'd like to stay around Finland, maybe find something a little more concrete. Just because like the problem is like too is like it's nice to get all the benefits of like gym, housing, and the meal, but that you still need something a little more liquid, I guess, to help with that visa thing too, which is just profoundly difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I know this is going to be kind of a thing that we speak about in this episode here, but if we set the early stages of it or the scene of it right now, like what's the visa situation when you first go to Finland? Like what kind of visa were you on?
I was on an athlete visa, so it's generally the same. Where it's usually need like your info while you're there. You intend to play for this football club. You bring usually you bring stuff like the sample of your contract, like what you signed, and then they usually need some sort of input like from the club, like how how much are they paying you and what way are they paying you and everything like that. It's still like it's probably like not too different from like any sort of any other business.
The first 2 years, are you on this same visa or does that change at all? Like, and two, are there any requirements to that? Because I wonder too. Like, I remember something in Denmark was like you had to have a certain salary, like it had to meet a certain salary requirement, right? Like, you
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
bring over a foreign player for yeah, I don't even remember what the number was, but hypothetically, just I can't be like can't give him $100 a game, right? And be like, yeah, this is a professional player. Like, was there that any type of requirements? Or I know you said that throughout the time there's been varying levels of support kind of from the club and helping you get your visa, and some of this is on you. Like, so I don't know. I know I'm asking a lot of questions about it, but I'm just
Oh no
curious
no.
about
I
it because
like
it's such it's an interesting topic.
no. It's just like it's very tough to wrap your head around. Like hopefully I can help anyone like trying to figure it out themselves. But
Mm,
oh, what was it? So kind of like with the thing where like like the people at the club were really nice, like really tried to help and everything. But it's just something. It's still just as foreign to them as it is to you. Um, and so what was it? My second year, we had sort of different management at the time.
mm,
They were telling me sort of like really nice, but they were just telling me like really random things here, but just asking me like call what was it? The American embassy in Finland to ask about the details for it. And I went along for it, got it, and like I could not just get them to ask. And so I finally asked a question. I was like, okay, yeah, just apply for the athlete visa, pretty much. So,
Yeah.
but we kind of, it was a little tough because my second year I played the fourth division, which is that was Komonen below the Kokonen. What was it? So they tried to get around the visa for athletes in a way by almost doing like applying for an extended sort of just, I guess, tourist visa almost, where it was just like, hey, can you just show that you have enough income to just be able to live on your own? You won't be like a financial burden on the country and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's on paper, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but then me and a couple of my buddies ended up having to go to the police station back in like September and stuff, just because apparently that was like not a good idea. So,
Yeah. And is this your second year with the same club when you're playing in the division
yeah,
below?
second year.
Okay. So,
We'd gotten relegated my first year, and I was hoping to keep playing, maybe get my name around a little more at the time, and hopefully get promotion too if possible.
okay. Gotcha. Yeah, it's funny that you you mentioned like the police story too. Like I know when I was in Germany, I think I've talked about this before, but it's like that was something too that I don't even know if all of us know like what type of visa we were on, but it was just one of those things where we're like a bunch of us in different groups were brought to the local immigration or embassy office or whatever, and people spoke in German and things were signed
Oh,
and we were given something, and then they said make sure when you leave the country that you show this. So to this day I can't even really fully tell you what visa I'm on, but did the process of you going to the police was imagine that wasn't leading to you then getting deported, right? Like that was able to be smoothed over.
it tends to work out is sort of like I guess like my life in Chemi there was just kind of the motto, like it tends to sort of sort itself out
Yeah.
and everything. So ended up finishing the season there. That was a great time and everything. We weren't able to get promotion, unfortunately. So then it was just kind of just sort of once again, like this is why I can't stress enough, like, always like, can you kind of be on the front foot for this, of like, finding further playing opportunities as an American there, because it can be really tough if you put it off like long enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to just ask too, like, what's the atmosphere like, being around a club and being in a club, kind of day to day when you're in that relegation fight or that relegation battle?
Oh, that was that's probably some of the most stressful times of my life. It was like I probably played 10 matches with them. It just seemed like one of those things, like, we could just not like eke out a win. Like I got like maybe a tie with them the one time. And I think it was a great group of guys, like, really just enjoyed playing with them, and, wish them all the best, like fantastic group of people. But I just, some things are just, the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. But at the same time too, it's like I'm almost grateful for the opportunity, because it kind of showed like that it couldn't be a worse start for playing, I guess, and I still wanted to kind of do it. And
Yeah.
I look back on now and like it's some fantastic memories, just like two years ago, even, like I loved it. And I'm hoping again, like, just get myself in that situation, just keep pushing myself like that. Like it it builds character, I guess. Just kind of leave it at that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I think, but I think what you said about it, um, kind of testing you and maybe giving you that spark that you were looking for or needed to continue to push on in the game, especially being in a situation like that, I think is something that is so unique to only Europe, right? Like we can't even fathom what it's like to experience it in the States, because there's just nothing like it. And going into each and every match, like when you're at the bottom like that and you're just desperately fighting for points, um, and it's tough. Like you walk into every one of those trainings, and as much as though the vibe amongst the guys can be great and they can be great people, like everybody feels it kind of weighing over them, like that cloud of
Oh, for
we
sure.
need to
It's just
win games.
definitely, like, things definitely started getting more and more tense, and eventually, once kind of relegation got confirmed, it got a little more like relaxed in a sense. But it definitely, like, there's some sort of atmosphere, like it's just tough to kind of describe a bit, where you almost have to kind of experience, like it's great to experience both sides of it for sure, but it definitely, like, you can't really imitate that like perspective like all too well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then the transfer to TP47, how does that come about? I know you said you were looking for new opportunities as you finished your second stint with Chemi City. How does that one fall into place?
I was actually really close friends, because some of them were actually former Chemi City players who I was really close friends with.
Okay.
Great group of guys, like love them and everything. I remember just I just because I had no idea what I was like trying. No, I was like, I cannot find like anywhere to play, and like I wasn't sure like if I wanted to keep playing in Lapland at the time, just because at that point the visa, that was the second visa scare. Um,
Yeah.
um, so, but it was like, what, I want to give it another chance. So I text my buddy and everything if they were interested in having like a winger and stuff. And, once again, too, just kind of like, offering like, hey, look, I'm just looking for like any opportunity to play and everything like that. Just, whatever I can get. So I got put in the contact with the coach, and, we were able to kind of get something organized where I talked to them a bit. And, once again, too, they, really, really nice group of guys and everything, but they weren't the most familiar with the visa process as well. Like
Mm.
they were telling me to start it before I got there. Which, if you do that, I have to drive over to like Washington D.C. to the Finnish embassy, and then wait for like three months. And at the time it was like February, so yeah, there's just like no chance of that working out. So it's kind of based on past experiences. Like, okay, I can head over there, and I kind of had to kind of lead my own application and everything. Like, I got that, I kind of figured it out with some help, from them and everything. But then I had to go down to like Oulu by myself, get that applied for and everything, and then hopefully it would just work out. So.
Mm. So that was the start of this season, right? The start of the 2023 season that you were playing with TP, correct?
Yeah, that was from about April to middle of June.
Okay. What was the on the pitch atmosphere like, or some of the success that you saw playing with that club or individually?
Um, at the time, I guess, what was it? Always just still happy to play, and still in some way or another, I'm still going, still kicking the ball around. It was like, honestly, it was a good experience to get to play with like some of those guys who I got to play with in 2021, where it was better circumstances too, in a sense, because actually, like, actually won a game or two, which is really fantastic. Got to kind of share some more success with them, and made a lot of great friends there too, just some more Finnish guys and everything like that. Like, really nice group of guys. But I think too, like, the time there I had, like, it was like still like I still played like fairly well and everything. Still, um, still has some sort of moments that show like, hey, I can still do it. Like, because at the time I was like, I only got to play Kekkonen for a little bit. Then Komonen is like, I was like, I'm doing pretty well in Kekkonen. Like, maybe I can keep going, like try and find a way to keep playing higher and higher.
I'm wondering if you have the same feeling when it comes to, like, I think the more that you can just kind of stay like relevant, right? I almost imagine it kind of like the sort of like the floor is like lava type game where you're just kind of keeping trying to find a bounce a new opportunity and keep yourself in the game, right? Like instead of taking a break and taking time away, and like, not to say that it can't happen at certain points. Like, I know you're doing it right now. I've done it before, but we've also been in that situation where it's like just keeping it alive, keeping myself in Europe in whatever way I possibly can seems like the best way to give yourself like the best opportunity to keep progressing in the way that you did. And even though like it might seem like not the easiest situation going into it when you go back to Finland and play for TP, especially given what they were telling you about the visa situation, I have to imagine for you it was like, as long as I keep kind of plugging, as long as I keep finding an opportunity, then something's going to work out here.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, it really is like like a bit of a numbers game, and just building up the resume too. Because like I think as a soccer player, it's definitely is tough to just sort of have like any sort of gap in there. I mean, I've heard of stories like acquaintances have told me where it's like they get advice is like, oh, you didn't play for a little bit. You should probably just say like just tell people like, oh, I was injured. That's why I didn't play for that long, because it almost seems like it's more sense than just saying around you just didn't have any opportunity. So it's definitely like this sort of struggle of like just trying to maintain like relevancy is like, hey, he's still got this, he's still got like the sharpness, I guess, and everything. Which not saying
Yeah.
you can't overcome it, but it definitely is like, try and make it easier for yourself if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because that saying of, like what have you done for me lately is so relevant, when it comes to this sport. I'm curious then, like, so a couple of years now playing at the professional level, like overseas, what and maybe we've already kind of answered it when it comes to the visa process, but I'm curious, like, are there any things that you know now that you wish you kind of knew when you first ventured over to Finland for the first time?
um, oh, I guess in a way, like I wish I'd taken more agency. I guess I think some my problem was, or maybe some other people feel this too, is like you kind of hope these things will fall into your lap.
Hmm.
Like maybe these playing opportunities, like if you're doing great, like at the time, like I thought I was doing pretty well. I was like, okay, maybe some will kind of work. Maybe like Man United gives me a shout or something. But I wish I could be kind of a little more proactive, I guess, in that sense, because like when my season was wrapping up for like the relegation season, I was already having some visa scares at the time too, as well, where it's like getting to totally leave the country, and I wish I'd been a little more proactive in like setting up something when I could try and return and maybe find like opportunities. But too, another problem is when you're what was it when you're an American, try opportunities in Europe can get pretty expensive if you got to fly all the way over there, and then they don't take you, so that's always a bit of a worry too.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe a little bit more proactive in that sense. I wish I'd been a little quicker in trying to learn the culture as well. Like I didn't really like it's almost a little sad, not sad, but like I didn't really make an attempt to try and learn the language a bit until like my third time there. Sadly, my shortest as well. Um, so yeah, I think as an American, it's like if you want to be like if you want the chance to be well liked there, just try and like be understanding, and try and like at least seem like you're trying to learn the culture, like just the way of life or how they play even.
Hmm.
Um, so not saying I was like horrible in that, but it's just always like hindsight's 2020, I guess.
Yeah. How how do you think that the learning of the language kind of affects your stay within the club or within the team? Because I agree with you. I think it's a really valid point that you make about the language sort of ingratiates you in the culture a little bit quicker. And one, just from an ease of communication standpoint, but two, like you said, it shows the people around the club, the players that you're playing with, the coaching staff, like whoever, it shows that you actually care about like this club, this community, and you want to become a part of it. But I'm wondering if you had any kind of experience like that in your time in Finland, and seeing, you know, how would you advise, I guess, a young player coming up, like when it comes to that?
Um, so I'll start off by saying though that like Finnish is a very difficult language. That
Oh
is
yeah.
just no, I great culture, but there's almost like to me at least like no rhyme or reason a bit, but it helps like just sort of learn like key words a bit, like even like football related stuff where ball like Paulo, or to my feet Yelka Yelka, um and maybe not the curse words, but I did learn those too just in case. So um so like that just kind of helps like in a football setting, but I think also too just like my third year was probably at TP. All of them were 100% Finnish players, like compared to like my last 2 years in Chemi, where there were some foreign players, and ironically enough, there were quite a few foreign players. My second year in Chemi, where I don't think I actually like sometimes I would go like a day without hearing like the Finnish language at all, like in Finland. It was almost like a little America in my house. But it's just definitely like that's a unique experience where you're kind of in the locker room, and like you hear them all kind of like talk with each other, joke around and stuff, and they're your friends too. You joke around with them, but you can kind of tell when they have to like sort of like switch something in their brain to like, okay,
Yes.
it's time to talk to Victor, sort of
Yes.
thing. And sometimes it can be a little bit more like you're homies, but they gotta it can turn to like some sort of small talk. We don't really get the whole like proper banter experience. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, that's such a good point. Like, because I think that's what I think. when people talk about learning languages, right, it always seems to be like that's the last piece that you get, right? Is kind of the humor, like the banter, like sarcasm, right? That's always because they're the last piece of like picking up on the cadence of the way people, kind of make jokes. But I like what you said too about, and it made me feel bad at certain times where I felt like people were, in order to talk to me, like they were having to like kind of work, if that makes sense. Like,
No,
you know,
I heard
in
like there's like a
yeah,
same
in
thing in
the
the
same way that us, for if we learn a foreign like if I'm fairly well versed in Spanish, right, and I go to like it's going to be hard for me to go and speak Spanish. So for these people to speak to me, it's like they're doing their hard work just to communicate with me, and I'm like, damn, like I appreciate you that you want to have this conversation with me, but I also feel bad that I'm like putting you through the ringer right now.
Oh, I know. It usually is up to like you, just like how about this weather or something like that. Just
Yeah, yeah. What So then how all kind of unfolds? You're in there in April, like you said, learning the language, learning the culture, getting back in at a higher level, playing football, and then fast forward and you have to come home. Like, what led to that visa, the scare, the one that we weren't able to survive?
um at the time too, I was kind of like going through some like kind of like tough issues at the time. Oh, I kind of had this bad experience like doing a trial in Italy where I guess you kind of have an idea where you seem like you kind of found this great thing, but all the glitters isn't gold. So I for like about a couple months, I was like pretty jaded about the whole just sort of like just playing in Europe soccer experience.
Yeah.
So but that started to get better with TP and everything. But then the visa scares started coming in. They were trying to pay me to set up this Finnish bank account, but you can't set up without a visa as well and everything. So there's like this point like where I'm there for 2.5 months and it's running out pretty soon, and I just have like no ideas like like I got no clue what I'm gonna do here. Do I try and like beat this through or hope it works out, but at this point too is it was kind of like just really it sounds a little sad, but just really kind of jaded. Like the whole experience of it. Like the third time was like, oh man, what am I doing here? There's just not a lot of luck with it. Like,
Mm.
but so I kind of made the call. Like, you know what? Maybe it's time to like just not because I was so sick of just having to worry about like is like am I going to be okay? Am I allowed to stay in the country? Where it's like maybe I should try and give it a shot. Like play in the U.S. now. At least like I could stay there full time and everything. So I decided it's best like thank the staff, and then I try to head back and like hopefully I could maybe find some like middle of the season and everything. See like my agent can find. I got some opportunities which was really nice, but just couldn't really get to work out.
Can I ask as well about that Italy experience? Like, what made it what it was? What made you kind of feel jaded afterwards? What was the setup to it, or how did it go down?
So great guy here. He was like the sort of like an administrator of my team. He approached me about like late February as like he was like how would you like to do it like playing opportunities in Italy. And usually you gotta go with that with some sort of skepticism and everything. Like, oh, okay, sure, maybe and stuff. And they showed me some photos. Told me some of my buddies who I played with in my second year in Chemi were also going as well. So that kind of was like, oh, okay, maybe that's a good sign. There were some really good players I played with who were also going to this. Like, okay, you know what, maybe that's worth it. So we go there, and the problem is though, it's usually the whole thing of like too good to be true because apparently it was like Serie B, Serie C, and Serie D teams being interested in like signing new players. Yeah, I can see where this is going. Interested in signing new players. So we go to this like very very cheap sort of like I guess like just tourist town place. I forget what the name was. Um, but I'm staying in a room with like my buddy who I played with like last year. Um, and we eventually go to like this public sort of like this public park like turf area, and there were some players who were pretty decent there, and then there were some guys like like sort of like any sort of open thing, probably like no business kind of being there. Anything like is like, man, what kind of is this? Like we're just playing each other and everything. Apparently there's scouts there or whatever. So it was all right there. But at the end of it, I then get like approached by the administrator who was talking with the agent who organized it, where it was what was it? A Serie D team was interested in me, called like I think Calcio Rende or something like that. And like here's the contract, and the point is like I'm ecstatic and everything. Like oh my gosh, I can't believe it. But then then he starts telling me other stuff where it was like, oh, your buddy also got one. This guy got one. Another guy of mine got one while he was there too. And you like 5 or 6 different guys, all got for like some sort of Serie D, Serie C team, which maybe like when you start thinking about like that, it's like something's kind of not right there.
Mm.
Um, what was it too? I did my research on Calcio Rende. It wasn't even a Serie D team. I tell the administrator got my friend that, and he's like, oh, there's a mistake. There's also another team interested in you now, apparently, is what they said. So, so it was like that. So, and of course, so too is the other thing is I forgot to mention too is like they find a team, but there's also like a 3,000 euro finder's fee sort of thing. You play first, and then then you sign contract. So and when that happens, you're at first you're also like excited, like, oh my god, I get to play in Italy, where you want to like kind of put your head in the sand a bit, like, okay, maybe this is how they do it sometimes and everything, but yeah, you gotta think about this and like really just trust your gut on this stuff. And I think unfortunately, for American players overseas, if it almost seems like it's too good to be true, it probably is. Like there's a whole business too, just for like for professional football. There's also a business of like trying to scam people wanting to play professional football. Like it's just as big. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, that experience was like, oh, that put me in a real funk for like yeah, maybe like that, like not just like the disappointment of it, but just like I was like, oh, what? There's just so much just bull crap with just trying to make this work here in Europe a bit. I just found like kind of frustrating for a while.
Yeah, I really like that you bring this up because I think it's an important topic for players to listen to. That it's like you said, there's as much as there's a business of football, there's also a business of people recognizing that there's a space in the market for people like ourselves who are just hungry for an opportunity. We just want the chance to try and play. And like people out there know that people like us are willing to go to great lengths just to make that happen. And so like there's so many instances where you hear of so many different agents that are like, yeah, sure, we'll work together, but give me $2,000 to start,
Yeah.
and then I'll go, or I have a trial set up for you at this level. And it's almost, I've become so jaded to it, whereas I almost am like, if anyone comes to me with an offer, like I'm almost jaded in the sense that I don't think that it's real, versus like if I reach out to somebody and then we converse and then an offer comes to fruition, right? Or it's through a connection or something like that. But anytime somebody directly contacts me, I'm always very wary of it because I'm like what is going on? And especially too, like
Oh,
the hard part I think for players to realize and understand is like, and it's not to say that you can't one day be at the level, but if somebody is coming to you and like saying that they can get you to a level that in your heart you really know you're nowhere near, you know what I mean? Like if somebody comes to you right now and is like, yeah, I can get you like into the Chinese Super League right now, or whatever it is, or like the A League or the MLS, or at top leagues in Europe, like, and where you're playing at right now, if it's miles off that, like it's just it's not, that doesn't happen, it doesn't work like that, you know what I mean? So it's hard, like, but it is important for players to, like you said, like you did when you were in Italy, like just kind of keep your head on your shoulders the best that you can, and if it seems too good to be true, then unfortunately it probably is.
no, 100%. It's like this. It's a weird balance of just believing in yourself, because you do have to believe in yourself that you are like a great player and you can play like the higher level,
Yeah.
but also just realistic, where like realistically, like what's the actual pathway like for that? Is it the guy that is it gonna just see in like A Star Is Born sort of thing here? Like probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So then you actually went and signed with like an agent, which I'm sure probably helped the process a little bit for you. Just having a little bit more connections, a little bit bigger network. Like, what was that process like for you and signing with your agent? How has it been working with one?
Honestly, it's been pretty ecstatic. I guess like kind of back to your original question too. with like my time in Finland. I wish
Mm,
I had like, because it's so tough when you're just doing that kind of cold calling stuff like by yourself, and you're sending the player CV, you're sending your highlight tape, and you're just like, I play for so and so, please take a look, would love to talk further. But if you can leverage like any sort of connection you can possible, like it doesn't have to be an agent in a way, but any sort of guy who's got like some sort of like leeway or credit, they can like vouch for you. Like I just do take that if you can, because
yeah.
it's really tough otherwise. But it's been a great experience. He's been very communicative. I'm working with Pedro Bregenholy of like Bregenholy Sports Agency. Really fantastic guy. He's been like really like talking me through the whole process, even when like it's been a bit of downtime right now and everything. Hopefully picking up pretty soon with preseason like eventually coming up.
Mm,
But that's been really good. He's kind of giving me a better idea of like advice of like sort of how to like market myself better, which I think is like it's really tough sometimes. Like you gotta think of yourself that way as a brand. Like you sell yourself a bit too, and like you can't take it personally a bit for these clubs like and everything, because it is it's tough in a way. You got to just really just sort of just keep putting yourself out there, like and like how you sort of market yourself like as a player and like person, I guess too. But which it's good to like have an understanding of that, like definitely help you like for further playing opportunities.
yeah. Absolutely. What have been some of the opportunities in coming back to the United States, or also where is your kind of sight set in terms of the horizon for football?
Like right now, I'm hoping I had a trial back in the summer with Michigan Stars. That was a great opportunity. Fortunately, didn't seem to work out, but it was great. It seemed like a nice group of guys. Like, enjoyed playing it. Like the opportunity I had, um, that was fantastic. I went to California for a bit. Pedro, my agent, like kind of vouched for me there for a club. At the time, I think it was just more. I forget what the league was called, NBSL maybe. Just to like kind of play there a bit, just to keep in shape. But that was good. That was like back in the summer, and so now though it's just been more just trying to, I guess, like keep sharp, doing anything I can right now. Which is always kind of tough, like like that. But figuring that out, hopefully I'm hoping to sort of play like any level I can. Maybe kind of my eyes on like Nisa, like this winter and everything. But really, it's just kind of doing this for so long, I realize like it really, I really love doing this. And like, it's like not even just the football, but like the sort of the friends and like the experiences I've made along the way. Cause I think it's kind of like helped me show like what kind of person I am. Um, Hopefully a nice one, but, what was it? Kind of person I am. I've made like, met some fantastic people here. I don't think I would have met otherwise. And I think they had a really positive impact on my life, like helped me go forward. And, I think I want to do this as long as I can, where eventually like it will kind of help me prepare me for the next step in my life. Cause that eventually does come, is the sad and beautiful thing about it, which, I'm always like, just, I'm excited for like whatever the path kind of takes me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And so it seems like as you look at it at now, kind of the focus is maybe to see if you can build a little bit of a resume here in the States. Is there ever that thought of maybe going back to Europe one day, or is it kind of for now like let's focus on what I can do over here?
For now, it's a bit of like, let's focus what I can do over here. There were like the past 2 years in Finland were just really fantastic, but there were also just sort of some like just issues I had where it's just that tough thing, like sort of like like relation. What was it like? Just sort of like as an American, um,
Yeah.
trying to maintain your relationships like while you're here, but you also live in another country for 7 months. I just it was just like really just difficult, like honestly, a kind of a stressful time in my life, where I'm hoping to maybe try and find like a little more like a better balance playing in the US. But I'm definitely like always like I still want to keep pushing myself in a way, like that's just who I am. Like it's like kind of like the beginning of this, like I still have that competitive drive. Like it can be for like freaking soccer golf, but I still just like I love pushing myself like that. It's just who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Have you noticed at all any differences in the marketing side of it when you say your agent's kind of giving you some more insight into how to market yourself as a player and a person to these clubs? Like, are there any differences that you're noticing between the US system versus when you were doing it overseas in Finland?
Um Nothing profoundly different. I was speaking more of maybe something more like just kind of like social media stuff a bit, where yeah, I kind of treat my my Instagram account as like yeah, I probably like I want to try and start treating it maybe more professionally in that sense, but definitely still trying to build like more just kind of repertoire, I guess, of like these coaches, like maybe because like when I was in Finland doing it by myself, it was these cold call things. I was literally just like googling these clubs here and like, okay, where are these coaches? Where are their emails? It's like, hi, I'm Victor Davis, yada yada. Here's my highlight and everything. Where maybe I can try and be a little more personal about it. Where it definitely less of a shotgun approach, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's the balance, right? Of like you want to create like that personal connection, but at the same time, I've found it difficult to strike the balance between, um, also knowing that I'm coming to this person, like kind of asking for something, right? Like I want an opportunity. I want whether it's a trial or a contract or whatever it is. So it's like, you kind of feel like you do want to be authentic and not just come in and just ask for something, but at the same time that is what your ultimate goal is. So you know what I
Oh
mean,
no,
it's
for
like the balance of like trying to hold both of those true.
sure. It definitely like the whole the struggle of like just trying to sell yourself in a way because like you are the product, I guess, and you gotta
Yeah,
like make it as pretty as you can.
yeah, 100%. um so I like to ask kind of one final part question. There's a couple parts to it, so kind of bear with me as we go through it here. But I always share these stories and love sharing the stories of people like yourself and footballers that I know you've listened to some of them, and I think while there are so many similarities in all these stories, there's also a lot of unique differences. And the cool thing for me is I found like no real two stories are exactly the same. No player has done it the exact same way. Like there's no like just blueprint of here's how to go and be a pro, right? So I like that each person's kind of story or their book, so to speak, is different. And if you were to say kind of what chapter of the story you're in right now, or which one are you writing at the current moment, what would you say kind of that is, whether it's football or life or both?
um I almost kind of describe it like for my life right now, it's like the new volume almost like maybe not even a new chapter, but a new book in a sense
Mm,
where these like these past 7 years, like have really just like my life revolved around like, half of it in the US, half of it in Europe. And I'm almost kind of excited in a way to, kind of reconnect, like, being back in the US,
yeah,
take what I learned from living abroad for so long and, keep applying it like not only just in football, but like, just being like, just, I think just a more mature person as well. Cause definitely when I went there, I was the most mature as an 18-year-old. And like, I feel like it's been a great just sort of experience now. Like I'm so much different than when I originally left for England. I'm kind of excited to almost like, come back to where I'm from, the US, and just reapply in a way like this is the new me. And like, here's what I learned. Here's what I can do.
yeah, yeah. I love that, man, and I love to. I didn't mention it earlier, but what you spoke about, like kind of using football as more of the vehicle to like grow and mature. Like, yes, there's so much of what we do that can be specifically tied to like just football in its purest sense, but I think when you really look at what we've been able to do, like especially someone like yourself who's lived so long overseas, like just the growth and the maturation and the different experience that you've been able to have that so many others in this country haven't, like it's such a unique thing. And to only take away the football part of that would kind of be a disservice. It would belittle all the other things that you were able to do, culturally and personally, just being overseas. So I definitely am appreciative of the way in which you kind of answer that, tying those things together. Yes, football is a big part of it, but it's not the only part. You know what I mean?
Oh no, thank you. Really appreciate that. I just like because when I went there too, it's just definitely like football focused sort of thing. But I think it's just it's almost just kind of like it's part of the journey in a way. Like it's just it's meant to be like in a sense.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned this chapter may be a new volume. So perhaps if you look at it, whatever, if we're gonna use like a next volume, or what you look to hope to write some future chapters, future volumes, what other things do you kind of want? before the career book closes to have written in there?
Um, honestly, just nothing more than just keep playing as long as I can. Because honestly, like for me, like this has been like just such a great vehicle, like just to great experiences, of course. But I'm excited like for the future opportunities, like the places I'll get to like see, like other parts of the U.S. I haven't been to, like the new friends I've met, I'll make and everything. Because there's been like some great friends I made along the way, and I'm excited, like just kind of keep growing and like just see these new experiences as well. And I feel like eventually too, like come a point like maybe in my early 30s, hopefully I can close that book and then maybe use that as a study guide then for like the next book or like what I want to do next.
Yeah. Yeah, and so then the last piece of this question that I like to ask is like, if somebody goes and picks up the book, whether it's in a little coffee shop in Finland or in the UK or in Ohio or wherever it may be, and they read it, like, what do you think you want them to say about it, or what should the takeaway be?
Um, I think for me at least, like like because when I first started was this whole thing of like play, show how good I am, top division, yada yada. But really, like the whole beauty of it too is this. It's just like this sort of like maybe a little too zen here, but like this self improvement sort of thing where it really is kind of like the journey in a way. Like it's what you make of it, but really just enjoy doing this, like doing football, like what you love, and it really will help you just like so much. Like it'll just help you with everything, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Like I said, I think it would do a lot of footballers a disservice to not look at what it's given you outside of the game as well. And allowing you to grow. But I appreciate your time. I definitely, as as you mentioned there, in enjoyment. I enjoyed getting to hear your story and kind of see the twists and the turns, and so it's been a lot of fun. I'm sure the audience will definitely enjoy it as well.
Thank you so much, Brent. Huge honor to be on here. Really happy.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much to Victor for stepping in to the 11 this week and sharing his story. Wishing him all the best as he now tries to forge the next chapter in his career over here stateside after a really formative experience the past couple of years overseas and specifically in Finland. But as you mentioned, definitely looking forward to kind of pursuing the career here in the States and being afforded the opportunity maybe to be around family and friends a little bit more after such a lengthy period overseas. So thank you to Victor. Looking forward to seeing what's up next for his horizon in the career. Thank you to all of you out there who have listened. If you didn't do it at the top, make sure you do it on the way out here for me. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Or if you're listening, I appreciate you too. Keep doing what you're doing. And make sure that you follow along, subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to so that you can make sure you're alerted when the next episode drops. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.